home from an authorized AMHA dealer. Don't miss your chance to take it to the house this season and win a beautiful manufactured home. Register to win today at auburntigers.com/ticket-to-the-house or rolltide.com/ticket-to-the-house. Certain terms and conditions may apply. To learn more, visit alamha.org.
Not looking or feeling your best? No energy for the things you like to do? Ready to look and feel younger? Make your appointment at Advanced Life Clinic, one of the region's foremost destinations for patients interested in looking and feeling their best. Specializing in advanced laser treatments and weight loss, male and female rejuvenation to offset the effects of aging, and more. See how Advanced Life Clinic can help you enjoy your life again. Call 256-882-6555 or log on advancedlifeclinic.com.
Well, welcome. We're here today to celebrate a tough team, a storied football program. This year's Commander-in-Chief Trophy winners, the Army Black Knights. We're also joined by Army's football's biggest fans, Bill and Steve of the radio show Crawdad's Countdown to Kickoff. Well, thanks for making a trip from Alabama.
Welcome, Army sports fans, from sea to shining sea. This is Bill Crawdad Crawford, and this is Crawdad's Countdown to Kickoff. Tonight we have a 30-minute show, so we will get right into it. I'm joined, as usual, by Steve Cripey, the human Ouija board.
Hey. Yeah, you can tell we've only got 30 minutes. You're talking really fast.
A
lot of caffeine.
I'm just not used to that.
Yeah, you're right. And also Barrett, the Dirt Pig Crawford's going to be here with us for the first 15 minutes. Barrett, how you doing?
Doing good. Army's playoff hopes are somewhat alive. Maybe a 1% chance, but they're alive. They're there.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Well, there's always a chance for anything in the world, but our playoff hopes are sort of down, but the season still has a lot left to go and a lot left to be hopeful for and a lot left to do. But let's talk just briefly about the Notre Dame game. It was a loss, 49-14, fairly disheartening. Steve, anything good that you can take away from that game?
Well, it's anytime you play a team higher caliber like that, you have the opportunity to elevate your game. And again, the thing that multiple commentators pointed out, and I think all what we observed as well, the team speed of Notre Dame was just next level. It didn't matter offense, defense. There were multiple plays on offense where I thought, okay, man, we've got a lane, and it closed down in a hurry. Defensively, just keeping up with that team speed was real tough. But again, now we've learned to react to that kind of team speed. If we can carry that into the balance of the season, who knows? Things could come together. Downside of playing an elite team like that, big and fast, strong. Few injuries, primarily on defense. So it'll be interesting to see who takes the field this Saturday.
Yeah, and I think Notre Dame shows why they're high ranked in the college football playoff. Even though we all wanted to see it go differently, and I think the whole world wanted to see it go differently, our Army just made a bunch of bonehead mistakes. I mean, with the poor tackling on the defense, the offense just basically not creating any running lanes for us to do rushing yards at all. It just looked like a sloppy performance by Army. There was a few good stuff on it, though. There was a blocked field goal, which was really good, a huge goal line stand against Notre Dame.
Yeah, that goal line stand was
amazing.
Harken back to Oklahoma, Michigan.
And I think another good thing too is the media coverage. A lot of good media coverage on game day and just on primetime television. So,
well, I think again, I agree. A great thing. If you didn't see it on game day, it was a great feature on Coach Saturnio and his younger brother and how they really are together as a family. That was very, very good.
And the impact that's had on the team.
Yeah,
it's just.
He's a stable in that locker room.
Yes, and everybody, all the players know Joe. And, it's just a heartwarming story.
It was. We got good coverage on that. We got good coverage of the Notre Dame game, and it's like I went somewhere one time and I said, everything was great except the game, and that's kind of what happened this week. But our guys, my good part of that, and Coach Monken mentioned this after the game when somebody said, well, when all was lost, why didn't you take your starters out? And he said, I didn't take those guys out because they're going to be commissioned officers in the Army. They're going to be fighting for our country, and they don't have any quit in them. And I like that. And they didn't have any quit in them. And I think that was evidenced by the drive we had at the end of the game where we scored to make it 49-14.
Yeah, and that comment from Monken, just another data point. He is the guy for Army. He gets it. He realizes that what he does there within the football program feeds into something much bigger, much greater. And these guys are going to be leaders in the Army and in industry out there. He gets it, and I appreciate him saying that. And and that's just who Monken is. Until it's quad zeros on the game clock, he's going to want to do everything he can to stay in the fight.
And he's the guy we want. And I love where Monken's taking this program, and especially this year. And guess what? You're still not over. We got 2, 3, 4 big games, right?
Yeah.
We got back-to-back games. So if you're listening on the radio, we're going to be in your ear all the time this next couple of weeks. So
Gonna
get
be
used
in
to
your
it.
ear. Yeah, it's going to be quite a stretch here. You're exactly right. And one thing we were talking about beforehand, I really think coming into the UTSA game is one of Coach Monken's biggest leadership challenges during his tenure here, because you're coming off of, we're 9-0 charged, coming into a high profile, high visibility,
all over game day.
Yeah. All the coverage we just talked about, playing an elite team, college football playoff on the line. Again, the emotions, the energy, the visibility, all that comes, and it was a disappointing outcome. So, you got to have the team back in the locker room on, Sunday morning, reviewing tapes. Let's take one last look. Let's capture the lessons learned. Let's move forward. And that's a huge leadership challenge, but not only for Monken and the coordinators and the position coaches, but those team captains.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the guys in the locker rooms, talking to their peers, and they've got to have their head held high, bring the energy. So when they walk into Mikey Stadium on Saturday to face a potent UTSA team, they're ready to go. And they've forgotten about Notre Dame. They're not looking forward to Tulane, Navy, none of that in the moment. That's a huge, huge leadership challenge.
Yeah, and Steve, let me elaborate on that just a little bit. And if you're listening out there, just close your eyes for a moment and put yourself in the United States Military Academy in November. So you've been there all summer. You haven't really had any kind of breaks whatsoever. It's tough. It's demanding. And by the way, all the football players live in the barracks with the rest of the cadets. So you're sitting there on the football team and everybody's getting pumped up about going home for a 4-day weekend for Thanksgiving, which, trust me, at West Point, those are few and far between. And all of a sudden on Wednesday, the Corps of Cadets is gone and you're there, just the football team. And you've got to say, well, it's kind of a little bit of a downer. I'd like to go see my parents. I'd like to go home and see my girlfriend or whatever the case may be. And Steve, that's where I think what you said is the greatest part. It's not the coaching. It's going to be the leadership of that team, the leadership of the team that says, hey guys, we're the football team. We're here for a reason. Let's keep our heads held high and let's go out there and play football. And the fact that there ain't no cadets in the stand doesn't make any difference. We're on the field and let's play the game. So I believe you're spot on. Is the leaders of that team have got to be leaders, and this week they really got to be leaders.
Well, and I tell you that Thanksgiving dinner in the mess hall all by yourself, that's a big spread of food too. That's gonna be that's a fun thing. If you're a cadet, you get that Thanksgiving dinner in the mess hall. That's a lot of food. So
there's the silver lining.
There's the silver lining.
That's the silver lining.
There's also too. It's a bummer that it's Thanksgiving weekend and all the cadets are going home, but it's also free from distractions. The football team's got a little extra time. They don't have school. They don't have any pressure. Go up to the practice facilities, watch a few tape, and just kind of unwind. And November in the fall at West Point, it's gonna be a nice time. It's gonna be cold though.
Yeah, it is. Didn't you check on the weather, Steve?
It's the last forecast. Yeah, high of 39. So come pass and review time, it's probably still in the upper 20s. Because I think it's supposed to get down to 22 the evening before. So it's going to be chilly out there, and hopefully that does not bode well for those
hopefully.
warm-blooded
San Antonians.
Yeah.
and again, just for those who've never been there before, there's cold, and then there's West Point cold. When that wind comes whipping off the Hudson River, it gets mighty cold, and it is going to be cold up there. No doubt about it.
Well, just going back to Notre Dame to looking at it, I always like to see the what ifs. What if we would have done something differently? How would that game turn out? And I'm looking at some of them. We had 5 fourth down attempts, and we only capitalized on one of them, which is very unlikely for an Army team. Imagine we would have gotten the rest of those 4 fourth down attempts. We wouldn't have gotten a block punt, and we would have had a little bit of offensive momentum going into that second half, which it almost seemed like we did. I honestly think that game would have been a little bit closer. It's just that Notre Dame team is just a stout team. I mean, they're just fast, defensive, and when we were looking at the stats last week, they almost compared to us, almost like identical in terms of the rankings of the stats. So it would have been neat to see the offense do a little bit more, and just frustrating as an Army fan.
But I think we also acknowledge, we'd have to play a flawless game. We did not. We held the penalties in check, had a turnover, block, those kind of things. But we also acknowledge we'd need a couple missteps from Notre Dame, and they were virtually flawless. They had 5 penalties, but for less than 50 yards. I mean, they were all the 10-yard varieties. So, no turnovers. They played within themselves all 3 phases of the game. They were rock solid, and that's a tough hill to climb. And I think one final comment that I will make, a lot of people, hearkening back to Oklahoma, Michigan, those kind of things like that. But again, that was pre-rule change.
Yeah, before the shot block.
On the cut blocks.
Yeah, cut block.
Yeah, and so I think this game demonstrates the true impact that that rule change had. We just, because that prevents them from pursuing down the line and getting on the option back and all those kind of things that we could held in check. We no longer have that option, and that's a tough road to hoe.
Well, Barrett, one thing I would say about your if I woulda, coulda, shoulda, I would say if a frog had wings, it wouldn't whomp its ass every time it jumped, But
I've never heard that one.
But hey,
and this has been
the words of wisdom,
deep thoughts with Bill Crawford. That's right.
And the one thing, Steve, though, about the blocking rules and the cut box, and what if we would have made 4th downs? That doesn't do anything to explain the 9.3 yards per attempt every time they ran the ball. We were just out talented in that game, and at least our guys didn't quit and they played hard. But anytime you are getting a first down, every time you run the ball, you got a long night ahead of you.
Yeah, that's tough.
So, any more crocodile tears we need to cry in the next 3 minutes before we go?
No, I think what we said. There are some positives there, and again, the character of the team, the character of Coach Monken, to see those things rise up, and the final snap, our guys are getting after it, and a team comprised of lesser character would not have done that, and so I take my hat off to them, and I have every reason to believe. Sunday morning when they were regrouping, they were looking ahead, lick their wounds, moving on. But we've got a great team, remarkably talented, and they still have the potential to do something really, really special this season. To win out like this, to set either set or tie the records of wins in a season, get back on the national rankings. All that is within the realm of possibilities. Win a conference championship in their first year in the conference, win Army, Navy, win a bowl game. Who would have thought, back in August as we were looking at the season, these were not in the realm of possibility.
We were looking at Lehigh going like, oh man, this is going to be maybe a tough one, but then, hey, look where we're at right now.
Well, if you talk about character and not quitting at the end of the game, if you happen to watch the Alabama game and the little half-hearted attempt Jalen Milroe made to tackle somebody after they kind of quit at the end of that game, and damn it, Army did not quit whatsoever. We kept playing as hard as we could for as long as we could until, as Steve said, until the
Yeah. What was the comment you made about the whole NIL, that you may get all the best athletes, but not necessarily the best competitors? What was that quote?
they may be physically superior, but competitively inferior.
Yeah. And I think, as we've talked about the whole NIL and the transfer portal and all those dynamics, I think part of the thing that strengthens the team characters is it's a band of brothers.
Oh, yeah.
I came in with a group of people on our day, and I'm going to graduate with them. We are true brothers. We're not hiring mercenaries throughout the season.
Well, speaking of true brothers, Bailey, I think it's time for us to take our one and only break of the night on this little short 30-minute show. We will be back and talk about the UTSA Roadrunners. Meep, 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 meep. Back in a bit.
97.7 ESPN The Zone is your home for Army football, and the #1 sports radio station in the Tennessee Valley wants to send you and a guest to see the 125th edition of America's Game, as Army and Navy will meet in our nation's capital on December 14th. It's simple. Just tell us your patriotic story or tribute, and we'll pick the one that rings red, white, and blue. And a pair of tickets to see the game will be for you. Just send your entry to 97.7 WZZN events at gmail.com. That's 97.7 WZZN events at gmail.com. Make your story count, as it's just one entry per household. So let your fingers do the talking and send us your story today. Entries must be sent to 97.7 ESPN The Zone by Friday, December 6th. 97.7 ESPN The Zone and Army football. It's something special in college athletics, and we want you to be there.
Welcome back, everybody, for the last 15 minutes of Crawdad's Countdown to Kickoff. Before we get really deep into this, just real quick, want to remind everybody to support our sponsors, Brian Hammaker and the team at North Alabama Mortgage. Go to northalabamamortgage.com for all your mortgage needs. And for your food and beverage needs, the best place in town is Nick's Restaurante. As I say, it's a driver and a pitching wedge south of the intersection of Bailey Cove and Weatherly Road. And you better make your Christmas reservations now, because they're filling up fast. For the second half of the show, we're joined by son-in-law and West Point grad Kyle Jasevich. Kyle, how you doing?
Crawdad Company and Crawdad Nation, second-time co-host, frequent listener, semi-frequent caller, and I remain a face for radio, as I am told.
And this living proof that nepotism reigns
Another
supreme.
Phil Feinbaum, yeah.
Well, Steve, let's go ahead and get started on UTSA, Bailey, with, there you go, the old Roadrunner, the UTSA Roadrunners. Let us talk about the green sheet, Steve.
Yeah, the green sheet, there it is. And, Army over here, UTSA on the other side. I mean, we match up very well with them, purely from a statistical standpoint. They are weak on defense, but, it reminds me back when we played North Texas. Formidable on offense, especially recently. They've been really racking up the points. Their quarterback, Owen McCown, really seems to have found his rhythm in the month of November. And they're starting to rack up. I think they've won 3 in a row and really put a whole lot of points on the board. But I think we match up very well with them. Penalty-wise, they really struggle. They're one of the worst in the country.
They are the worst.
On penalties, they average 9 penalties a game and 86 yards in penalties. So not a particularly disciplined team. But it's really been, I think, as you look at both teams, it's been sort of the tale of two cities. They struggled early on, lost to some pretty poor teams. But again, those last 3 games, they've really turned it on. Conversely, we were talking about this before dinner. Army, first 7 games, we averaged over 40 points a game offensively. Our last 3, we've averaged 16 points. So a big drop off. And, some of the people on the Facebook page are saying, well, we're getting too conservative, we're not being innovative and stuff like that. We're doing what we've done all season. And that's what concerns me is, early on in the season, and this is a theory, I'm not going to say this is what has transpired, but early in the season, Worley came in, brand new offensive coordinator. First time people are seeing his brand of offense, and we were doing really well. Part of me wonders now that we've got a half a season of tape on Army, and especially those staffs that have those people that look at the numbers, look at tendencies, look at progressions of plays and stuff like that. Are they cracking the code on Worley's offense and adjusting accordingly?
Well, Kyle, what do you think about UTSA? I know you've done a good look at them this year.
Yeah, so this is a good team. They're a 6-5 overall, 4-3 in the AAC. So this is a conference game, and they are coming off a 3-game win streak with a victory against a very solid Memphis squad. So of note, their wins against mutual opponents with Army include North Texas, Temple, and FAU, but their losses are Rice and Tulsa. And remember, folks, this is a one-loss Army team, with that one being against Notre Dame. We are undefeated in conference play up until this point.
And, one thing I think that's interesting about UTSA, one, they're from the warm, sunny state of Texas. Every now and then they're going to go up into the cold confines of Michie Stadium. But interesting thing is, I think the last 4 times we played UTSA, the visiting team has been the winner, not the home team. So I don't know.
Since we resumed the series in 18, we've only missed 1 year where we didn't play, and the road team has won every single one of them. That's interesting stat.
And, I'm wondering how much of a home field advantage is really going to be at play with the Corps of Cadets off eating turkey in their mama's house.
Yeah, ESPN currently has Army with an 84% chance to win.
Yay.
The spread's currently sitting at -7 in Army's favor with an over-under of 54.5. But it's a great point. Home field advantage kind of goes out the window. Obviously, we have the Michie Preservation Project well underway. You have the former Lusk Reservoir stands, which are no longer there. The Corps is ideally going to be recuperating for some much-deserved leave and sleeping off some of that turkey before they head back in to prep for the final home stretch before Beat Navy week and the game itself and tease, of course. But we'll see what kind of home field advantage this has. It will be cold. Hopefully that works to our advantage, as it is most months of the year and on the banks of the Hudson.
Well, let me ask you guys this, Steve, and I'll start with you. Give me a key to victory. What does Army have to do to beat the Roadrunners?
I think it starts defensively. We've got to make a statement defense, much like what we did against North Texas. North Texas, again, was one of the top offenses in the country, top 10 in a lot of offensive stats, and we held them in check. We popped them in the mouth coming out of the starting gate and didn't let up. So I think that's going to be key, because especially as, Kyle pointed out, they're on a 3-game winning streak, doing a lot of great things. They've been averaging 48 points a game during that 3 game stretch.
Yikes.
Conversely, they're giving up 30 points, but still they're winning by 18 points on average. But I think we've got to play Army football, keep the mistakes to the minimum. And I think it's going to be important that I think we'll get a real good snapshot on where the Army team is, based on all those factors that we talked about coming into, this game. If they come out there with energy, I like our chances. I think we can hold them in check and come away with a big W.
Kyle, what's your key to victory this week?
I think it's that red zone defense. Obviously, it had held strong. I mean, just you look at that North Texas game alone, and those 2 red zone interceptions against a potent and high flying North Texas offense. I think we've got to see what the red zone defense looks like. Obviously, it was not the game we wanted to see against Notre Dame, and they came out out firing on all cylinders. I think it's a big bounce back game. I think that red zone defense is going to be a critical component of it, and also I think it's got to be a statement win. We need to hang points on the board because we are playing these next two games in particular, starting with UTSA and then moving on to Tulane with the AAC championship game. These are two high-powered offenses that we need to put points on the board for.
Well, I'll tell you my keys, and this is kind of a Crawdad key. It's kind of ridiculous, probably, but that's okay. I say ridiculous.
So it's a kind of a Crawdad key coming from Crawdad. Wow, this is.
I think
didn't see this coming.
We've got to we've got to forget, but we got to remember too. So what do we have to forget? We have to forget the Notre Dame game to a degree. We have to say, hey, let's put that in the rearview mirror. It's gone. But we also have to remember that there's a hell of a lot left to play for. And we have to remember that we've got a good team. We've got a lot to play for. And the country will be watching. At least the CFP playoff committee will be watching how we do. So,
okay, let me throw out this scenario. We kicked this around before dinner real quick. But Tulane plays tomorrow. They and Memphis play. They're the only college football game on Thanksgiving. We will know by tomorrow evening whether or not where we're going for the AAC championship game. If they win tomorrow, they've knotted up the G5, probably top ranking in the CFP. CFP is no longer on the line. Do we throttle back? And focus, because normally traditionally we've always had a bye week before Navy. Now we don't have a bye week, and we're playing for the conference championship the week before Army Navy. Two really big games for all the coconuts. Do we try to throttle back and rest guys?
Well, I think first and foremost, all of that, just like the turkey that was received a presidential pardon earlier this week, Army's playoff hopes are alive and well this late in the season. And I think that's definitely something that we haven't been able to say frequently since the playoff was invented. That's a great question. I think it goes back to when it comes down to Coach Monken's that never quit attitude that really carried through into the fourth quarter of Notre Dame. I think we play the starters throughout.
Yeah.
Well, I think in the last 3 minutes of the show, my comment is going to be this. I don't think there's any quit in Jeff Monken. I don't think there is any quit in the team. And although there is a lot of logic in what you're saying, the pros do it all the time. They sit their starters down if they're guaranteed to make the playoffs. No matter what happens, we're in the AAC championship game, and that's a fact. But I think our players it's senior day up there this weekend. They're going to want to play, and they're going to want to play their little asses off. So no, they're not going to sit them down. And I think if they set them down, the only reason is because we're winning by about 20 points. So,
now that'd be nice.
So as the clock,
so that's the key to the game. Get up by 30 points by halftime and rest the starters.
No, the key to the game is to forget and remember. I've already said that. So
remember.
Well, let's get a predictions. Kyle, we'll start with you. We got 2 minutes left.
35-23, the Army team.
35-23. Okay.
Steve, what about you?
Yeah, I've got Army beating the point spread as well. They're going to finally find that offensive rhythm again, and they're going to come away with a win 30-21.
And I'm saying 34-21. So we'll see how we hold up. But bottom line is we'll be watching. It's going to be a great game. And regardless of the outcome, we're still in the conference championship game. And Steve, before I forget, how many days?
Sir, there are 16 and about days until Army beats the hell out of Navy at FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland.
How about that? I can't wait. Well, guys, it's been a great year so far. It's only going to get better. Sorry we had a quick show tonight, but we're walking you right up to the Alabama basketball pregame show. Special shout out to Cousin Ben, who's sitting here in the stadium, in the stands with us also. This is nepotism night, I guess, would be a good way to put it.
I was the lone outsider that was allowed to come.
Yeah, but you're like you're in the Army brotherhood. And folks, you heard the commercial about the Army Navy tickets. Go ahead and get those entries in. We've got quite a few in already, and we need more. Those are very valuable tickets. It's going to be a great game this year. It's in Maryland. I think it's Kyle, Landover, Maryland.
Landover, Maryland, just outside of the District of Columbia.
So now that you just acknowledged, you didn't just listen to what I just said.
What?
16 and about days.
The Army beats the hell out of Navy at FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland.
Army Navy football.
Gee, sorry, Ollie. Sorry about that, Chief, as Maxwell Smart would say. So let's go ahead and get out of here. We'll be back next week for our show prior to the championship game. How about that?
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting time here. We're going to come out of this next week. We get to talk about the AAC championship game with a really good chance to win that, and then Army Navy, and then we get to hear what bowl game we're going to.
And if you're an Army fan, you need to have Boise State lose this weekend. You need to have, who else needs to lose?
Tulane definitely needs to lose.
Boise State and Tulane.
Just beat everyone.
Hey, folks, quick show. Glad you listened to us or watched us on TV. And as we always say, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, there's a soldier, sailor, airman, Coast Guardsman, Space Force member, or Merchant Marine standing a post so you can enjoy the life you do in this great country. Bailey, we're out of here. Have a good weekend. Go Army.
Be Navy.
The best in local sports talk from the 256. We are local.